The last guardian, Maya Reeves, wiped dust from her grandfather's photograph as distant explosions lit up the night sky over what used to be Chicago. 6 months since the Crixian warships had appeared in Earth's orbit. 3 months since organized military resistance had crumbled. 1 month since she'd heard another human voice on the emergency broadcast system before it went silent. The farm had been in her family for generations, tucked away in the rolling hills of southern Wisconsin. Far enough from major cities to avoid the initial devastation, close enough to hear the ongoing war. Maya had returned here after her unit was decimated in the early days of the invasion, hoping to find her grandfather. Instead, she found an empty house and his final message scrawled on the kitchen table. "Remember what I told you about the storm cellar. It was never for tornadoes." Tonight, as the alien scout ships drew closer, Maya finally understood. She pulled up the old trapdoor hidden beneath a worn rug in the pantry and descended into darkness. Her military-grade flashlight revealed not the simple storm shelter she remembered from childhood, but a reinforced tunnel stretching deep into the earth. "Grandpa, you crazy old man," she whispered, following the passage to a massive blast door with faded military markings. The keypad beside it was dead, but the manual override worked when she entered her grandfather's birth date, something he'd made her memorize, just in case. Inside lay a chamber that hadn't seen light in decades. Diagnostic equipment, tools, and in the center, something massive covered by a tarp. When she pulled the covering away, her breath caught. It wasn't the stockpile of weapons or food she'd hoped for. It was a mech suit, 8 feet tall, humanoid, built like a tank but somehow elegant in its brutal design. Unlike the sleek, mass-produced military exoskeletons she'd trained on, this was something different, older, experimental, painted on its chest plate. Guardian. Maya ran her hand over the scarred metal. "What were you working on, Grandpa?" Holographic display flickered to life from a projector on a nearby desk. Her grandfather's face appeared, older than in the photograph upstairs. "If you're seeing this, Maya, things have gone sideways. I always feared they would. This is Project Guardian, something the government wants forgotten. We built it to fight a war that never came, using technology we weren't supposed to have." The recording explained how her grandfather's team had reverse-engineered recovered alien tech in the 1980s, creating a combat system decades ahead of its time. The project was buried when funding dried up, but her grandfather, the chief engineer, couldn't bear to destroy their work. He'd smuggled the prototype to the one place no one would look, a family farm in Wisconsin. "It's keyed to our DNA," the recording continued. "No one else can operate it. I hoped you'd never need to." The message ended as a proximity alarm blared. From upstairs, Maya's tactical pad showed 5 Crixian scout ships landing in the cornfield. Standard procedure. They'd search for resources or survivors, eliminate any resistance, tag the location for the harvesters that would strip the land bare. Maya looked at the mech suit, then at her grandfather's frozen image. She'd been a combat engineer, not a pilot, but she'd also grown up playing flight simulators her grandfather had modified for her. "Those weren't games, were they, Grandpa?" she murmured. The interface felt familiar as she climbed in. The neural link activated, HUD systems coming online one by one. The mech's reactor, impossibly compact, impossibly powerful, hummed to life, driving systems that shouldn't have existed when this machine was built. Outside, the Crixians were methodically searching the farmhouse, their chattering language picked up by the mech's sensors. Maya heard one of them laugh, that distinctive warbling sound, as they discovered her grandfather's collection of human military medals. To them, human achievements were quaint curiosities, relics of a primitive species. "Let's see how primitive this relic is," Maya said, activating the weapon systems. She guided the mech up through an access shaft that opened into an old barn. The Crixians never looked up as the massive doors slid aside, too focused on cataloging human artifacts. Their overconfidence was understandable. They'd conquered most of Earth with barely any losses. Human weapons bounced off their shields. Human aircraft were swatted from the sky. The first alien noticed her when the Guardian's shadow fell across the farmhouse. It raised its weapon, too late. The mech's arm cannon fired, Not the expected bullets or shells, but a concentrated pulse of energy that bypassed the Crixian's personal shield completely. One shot, one kill. The others reacted quickly, professional soldiers facing an unexpected threat. Energy weapons blazed, scorching the Guardian's armor but failing to penetrate. Their confusion was evident in their movements. Human tech shouldn't be this advanced, shouldn't be able to counter their shields. Maya felt a fierce joy as the mech responded to her commands like an extension of her body. Her grandfather's training scenarios had been exact replicas of Crixian combat tactics. He'd known they were coming, had prepared for this day decades in advance. The battle was brief and decisive. 4 dead aliens, 1 retreating scout ship, and a message sent to the Crixian fleet. Humans weren't done fighting yet. As dawn broke, Maya stood beside the Guardian, watching the scout ship vanish into the clouds. Her tactical pad was picking up new signals, human survivors drawn by the battle. They approached cautiously at first, then with growing wonder at the machine that had defeated the invincible aliens. "What is that thing?" asked a grizzled man, who introduced himself as a former Marine. Maya looked up at the scarred mech suit, realizing what her grandfather had truly built. Not just a weapon, but a symbol. Something to rally around when all seemed lost. "It's humanity's last guardian," she said, "and it's just getting started." The survivors gathered around, hope kindling in their eyes for the first time in months. None of them noticed the small device embedded in the chest of one dead Crixian, transmitting data back to the invasion fleet. Data about a human weapon that should not exist, using technology the Crixians thought was exclusively theirs. Aboard the Crixian command vessel, Fleet Commander Zorax reviewed the footage with growing concern. The human weapon had penetrated their shields using principles only the Crixian High Command should possess. He magnified the image of the mech suit, focusing on the distinctive energy signature of its reactor. "Impossible," he hissed, mandibles clicking in agitation. How did these primitives acquire void core technology? His second-in-command approached cautiously. The human resistance was supposed to be crushed. "Clearly, our intelligence was flawed," Zorax said, eyes fixed on the owl image of the Guardian. "This changes our approach. I want that machine captured intact, and I want the human who pilots it brought to me alive." He closed the holographic display, but the image of the human weapon lingered in his mind. For the first time since the invasion, Fleet Commander Zorax felt something he had not expected to feel when facing humans: doubt. Back at the farm, as night fell again, Maya worked alongside the survivors to fortify their position. The Guardian stood watch, its reactor humming softly, power levels holding steady despite the day's battle. Inside its cockpit, systems ran self-diagnostics and repair protocols, guided by an AI far more sophisticated than anything humans had officially developed. Maya studied the mech's schematics, discovering capabilities her grandfather hadn't mentioned in his recording. The Guardian wasn't just a weapon, it was a testament to human ingenuity, to the capacity to understand and improve upon alien technology. Her grandfather and his team had taken something foreign and made it uniquely human. She closed the access panel. Maya placed her hand on the Guardian's metal hull, feeling the subtle vibration of its systems. "We're going to need every advantage you can give us," she whispered. "They'll be back, and next time they'll be ready for us." What she didn't say, what she didn't need to say, was that humanity would be ready too. The word was spreading, transmitted by the survivors through old radio equipment. Something had hurt the invincible aliens, something human. The resistance had found its guardian. The resistance rises. 3 weeks after the farmhouse battle, Maya's sanctuary had transformed. What began as a handful of survivors had grown into a settlement of over 200 people, former military, engineers, doctors, ordinary citizens, who refused to surrender. The farm buildings expanded outward with scavenged materials, the fields replanted with quick-growing crops. Beneath it all, the bunker complex grew as they discovered more of her grandfather's preparations. The Guardian stood in a newly constructed hangar, surrounded by workbenches where engineers pored over its systems, learning, adapting. Maya had become both commander and teacher, sharing what she knew while learning herself. Each day brought new discoveries about the mech's capabilities and the principles behind its technology. "It's like your grandfather left us a university. Course in alien tech," said Elias Chen, formerly an engineering professor at MIT, now Maya's chief technical advisor. "These systems are decades beyond anything we were developing publicly." "But they're still human-designed," Maya replied, watching a team install salvaged Crixian components into the Guardian's left arm. Grandpa's team didn't just copy alien tech. They understood it, improved it. The Crixians had noticed their growing resistance. Aerial bombardment had become routine, forcing them to develop early warning systems and shelters. Ground assaults came weekly, each larger than the last, each repelled by the Guardian and the increasingly well-armed human fighters. Tonight, Maya stood on the farmhouse porch, watching storm clouds gather on the horizon. The weather reminded her of childhood summers here, before the world changed. Beside her stood James Okonkwo, a former Army Ranger who now led their ground defense teams. "Scout reports confirm it," James said, handing her a tablet. "They're bringing in a Devastator-class warship. Should be in range by tomorrow night." Maya studied the images. The Devastator was the Crixian siege weapon, a floating fortress that had leveled Chicago in hours. The Guardian was powerful, but against that, "They're escalating," she said. "We've become more than a nuisance." "That's one way to put it," James smiled grimly. The communications team intercepted transmissions from their command ship. "They're calling you the ghost of dead Earth. There's a standing order to capture you alive." Maya handed back the tablet. "Good luck with that." A commotion at the perimeter drew their attention. Guards were escorting a small group of newcomers, unusual as most arrivals came singly or in pairs. At their center walked a tall man with the bearing of a career soldier. "Says his name is Colonel David Reeves," James said quietly. "Claims he's your father." Maya stared in shock. Her father had been stationed at a research facility in Nevada when the invasion began. All contact with that region had been lost in the first wave. "Maya," the man said as he approached, his voice cracking. "Thank God." She wanted to run to him, but caution held her back. "Prove it's you." He nodded, understanding her suspicion. "Your 16th birthday I was deployed. Sent you a model plane kit instead of the car you wanted. You built it anyway, then modified it with parts from your radio to make it fly by remote control." The tension left her body. It was him. She embraced him tightly, feeling the unfamiliar thinness of his frame. When they separated, she saw the others with him. 5 men and women in tattered uniforms, all bearing the insignia of the Advanced Weapons Division. "How did you find us?" she asked, leading them inside. "Your broadcasts," her father explained. "We've been monitoring resistance communications, trying to link up surviving military units. When we heard reports of a mech suit defeating Crixian scouts, I knew it had to be connected to your grandfather." Inside the command center, once her grandmother's sewing room, Maya's father studied the tactical displays with growing appreciation. "You've done incredible work here," he said, "but that Devastator will wipe you out unless you evacuate." "We're not running," Maya replied. "Show him the Guardian," she told Elias. In the hangar, Colonel Reeves circled the mech suit slowly, professional assessment giving way to wonder. "My God," he whispered. "Joseph actually finished it. We thought Project Guardian died with the funding cuts." "You knew about this?" Maya asked. Her father nodded. "I was junior staff when your grandfather ran the program. That's how I met your mother." He touched the Guardian's armor reverently. "We were working with recovered tech from a Crixian scout ship that crashed in 1969. The brass thought we were decades from any practical applications, but your grandfather had breakthroughs no one else could replicate." "Why didn't you tell me?" Maya asked. "Classified," he said simply. "And we hoped the knowledge would never be needed. We thought we had more time." One of the officers with him, a woman with major's insignia, stepped forward. "Colonel, show her what we brought." From a secure case, Maya's father produced a data core, Small alien in design but modified with human components. This is what we managed to save before our facility fell, he explained. Complete tactical data on Crixian ship designs, including Devastator-class vessels. Your grandfather's work gave us a head start, but this gives us their blueprints. Maya's eyes widened as she realized the implications. Weaknesses? Her father nodded. Every ship has them. The Devastator's main weapon draws power directly from its central reactor. During charging cycles, there's a 3-second window where the containment field fluctuates. Hit it then, with enough force. And boom, finished Elias, who had joined them. But the Guardian's weapons aren't powerful enough to breach a Devastator's hull even at that weak point. They would be, Maya's father said, with this. He opened another case, revealing a cylindrical device glowing with faint blue light. Prototype weapon based on Crixian technology. We call it the Void Lance. One shot, then it burns out. But that shot will penetrate anything the Crixians have. As the engineering team worked to integrate the new weapon, Maya and her father stood on the observation platform, watching the controlled chaos below. "Mom?" Maya finally asked, the question she'd been afraid to voice. Her father's expression tightened. Research station in Colorado, direct hit in the first wave. He took her hand. "She would be proud of you, Maya. We both are." The proximity alarm blared before she could respond. The Devastator had arrived early, already beginning its approach vector. "Battle stations," Maya called, running toward the Guardian. "Evacuation. Protocol Theta, get the civilians to the bunker." Her father caught her arm. "Maya, wait. I should pilot the Guardian. I've had more combat experience, more training." "No," she cut him off. "Grandpa keyed it to my DNA, my neural patterns. It won't accept anyone else as primary pilot." She softened her tone. "But there's a secondary interface. The Guardian was designed for a co-pilot, someone to manage weapon systems while the primary handles movement and defense." Understanding dawned in her father's eyes, like the modified flight sims I used to play with you. "Exactly like that," Maya nodded. "Those weren't games, Dad. They were training." Together they entered the Guardian's cockpit, taking their positions as systems came online around them. The neural link connected them not just to the machine but to each other, sharing tactical awareness and control. Outside, the Devastator loomed over the farmland, its shadow darkening the afternoon sky. Smaller Crixian vessels deployed around it, preparing for the ground assault that would follow the initial bombardment. "They're charging the main cannon," her father reported, reading the Guardian's enhanced sensors. 50 seconds to firing. Maya, engage the Guardian's propulsion system, another element reverse-engineered from Crixian tech, allowing the massive mech to move with surprising speed and grace. They needed to get within optimal range of the Devastator's weak point while avoiding the smaller craft. 30 seconds, Maya, we need to get closer." "Working on it," she grunted, guiding the Guardian through a barrage of fire from Crixian interceptors. The mech's shields flared with each impact, holding but weakening. 15 seconds. Void Lance is charged and ready. The Devastator's main cannon began to glow, energy building to the level that could vaporize the entire settlement. 10 seconds. 9. 8. "Now or never," Maya's father said, finger poised over the firing control. "Not yet." Maya pushed the Guardian's propulsion system beyond safety limits, rocketing upward in a direct approach to the Devastator's underside. "Wait for the fluctuation. Now!" The Void Lance fired, a concentrated beam of energy unlike anything human weapons could produce. It struck precisely at the moment the Devastator's containment field wavered, punching through metal and shields to reach the heart of the vessel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive ship shuddered, internal explosions visible through breaches in its hull. The charging cannon went dark as power systems failed catastrophically. "Get us clear," her father shouted as the Guardian's sensors registered the building. Chain reaction. Maya engaged emergency thrusters, sending them plummeting away from the doomed warship. Above them, the Devastator broke apart in a series of explosions, its remains raining down across empty fields, deliberately away from the settlement. The Guardian landed hard, systems overloaded, but intact. Through the viewport, Maya and her father watched as Crixian support vessels scattered in disarray, their command structure broken with the destruction of the Devastator. "We did it," Maya whispered, hardly believing. Her father checked the tactical display where signals from other human resistance groups were appearing, drawn by their victory. "No, Maya. We've just started." As night fell, the resistance gathered around the battle-scarred Guardian, celebrating not just survival but their first major victory. News spread via salvaged communications equipment, reaching isolated human groups across the continent. A Devastator had fallen. The invincible Crixians could be defeated. Aboard the Crixian command vessel, Fleet Commander Zorax received the reports with cold fury. The loss of a Devastator was unprecedented, the tactical implications severe. More disturbing were the readings. From the Guardian's weapon, it bore energy signatures that matched Crixian prototype technology. Technology that even most of their own military lacked. "These humans," he snarled to his assembled officers, "are more dangerous than we were led to believe. They have not only adapted our technology but improved upon it." He brought up holographic displays of Maya and the Guardian. "This ends now. Prepare the fleet for a full assault." His second-in-command hesitated. "Commander, High Command has ordered us to reassess the invasion. If the humans possess advanced weapons," Zorax silenced him with a gesture, "I will not return to Crixia in defeat. Not against primitives. We attack in force, we capture their weapon, and we make an example of these resistors that will break the will of humans everywhere." Back at the farm, as celebrations continued, Maya stood apart, watching the sky where debris from the Devastator still burned in the atmosphere. Her father joined her, carrying 2 cups of the Resistance's homebrew. "They'll respond with everything they have," she said, accepting the drink. He nodded. "Yes, but now we have something we didn't have before." "What's that?" He smiled, gesturing to the gathered humans, their faces lit with hope and determination. "A real chance. And sometimes, that's all humanity needs." Maya raised her cup in silent toast, eyes fixed on the stars where Crixian ships would be gathering. The Guardian had given them a victory today. Tomorrow would bring a greater test. But for the first time since the invasion began, the human resistance had more than just hope. They had proof. Proof that with ingenuity, courage, and the legacy of those who prepared for this day, humanity could fight back, could win. The war for Earth had truly begun. Turning the tide dawn revealed the full scale of their victory, and its cost. The Devastator's wreckage had scattered across miles of countryside, leaving craters and burning debris. The Guardian stood amidst the engineering bay, systems running at minimal capacity as repair teams worked around the clock. The Void Lance was burnt out as predicted, the technology too unstable for sustained use. Maya studied the tactical displays in the command center, now expanded into what had once been the farmhouse living room. Red markers showed Crixian fleet movements, dozens of ships changing course, converging on their position. "They'll be here within 48 hours, Colonel Reeves said, joining her at the display. "And they're bringing everything." In the 3 days, since destroying the Devastator, their resistance had swelled with new arrivals. Soldiers, engineers, civilians with critical skills. Transport convoys had arrived from hidden bases across the Midwest, bringing supplies and equipment salvaged from abandoned military installations. "We can't defend this position against that kind of firepower," Maya said. "Not even with the Guardian." Her father nodded. "So we don't defend, we attack." The plan took shape over the next day, bold to the point of insanity but built on solid intelligence. The Crixian fleet approaching Earth was commanded from a single vessel, the Dominance, Fleet Commander Zorax's personal warship. Their intercepted communications revealed that Zorax had staked his reputation on crushing the human resistance quickly and completely. "Zorax is operating against his High Command's recommendation," explained Li Wei, formerly a military intelligence analyst who had joined them 2 weeks earlier. "He's been ordered to reassess the invasion in light of our technological capabilities, but he's ignoring those orders." "Pride," Maya's father said. The one weakness every species shares. The plan required precise timing, flawless execution, and more than a little luck. While the bulk of their forces would evacuate to fallback positions, a small strike team would take the Guardian directly to the Crixian command ship before it entered Earth's atmosphere. We can't reach orbit, Elias objected during the planning session. The Guardian's propulsion system isn't designed for space travel. It doesn't need to be, Maya replied. We're not going through space. We're going through them. The solution came from an unexpected source. A theoretical physicist who had been working as a field medic since escaping a Crixian labor camp. Dr. Sarah Kamathi had studied the Guardian's transportation system and recognized its true potential. It's not just propulsion, she explained, pointing to schematics on her tablet. Your grandfather was working with principles of space-time manipulation. The Guardian doesn't just move through space, it can fold it. Teleportation? Maya asked skeptically. Not exactly, Dr. Kamathi said. More like creating a tunnel between 2 points, but it requires immense energy and precise coordinates. The system was never fully implemented in the Guardian's original design. Could we make it work? Colonel Reeves asked. Dr. Kamathi glanced at Elias, who had been reviewing her calculations. With the Crixian power cells we've salvaged, and bypassing about 15 safety protocols, maybe. It was enough of a maybe to build a plan around. While engineering teams worked to modify the Guardian, others prepared the evacuation and diversionary attacks. By the time the Crixian fleet was 12 hours out, the resistance settlement had transformed into a ghost town with automated defenses and holographic projections to mask their departure. Maya stood in the empty farmhouse one last time, touching the worn kitchen table where her grandfather had left his final message. Behind her, James coordinated the last evacuation transports. Strike team is ready, he reported. Guardian modifications are complete, but Dr. Kamathi says there's no way to test the system before actual deployment. So we'll test it live, Maya said, following him outside. The Guardian waited in the central yard, its armor repaired and reinforced, new weapon systems integrated where the Void Lance had been. The cockpit had been modified to accommodate not just Maya and her father, but Dr. Kamathi as well, who would operate the experimental transport system. 6 other resistance fighters completed the strike team, each chosen for specific skills. Their mission: deploy directly to the Dominants, fight their way to the command center and capture or kill Fleet Commander Zorax. Without centralized leadership, the Crixian invasion force would follow standard protocols, regroup and await new orders, buying precious time for the human resistance. This is still a suicide mission, James said quietly as they approached the Guardian. Maya nodded. Probably. But if we don't try, we're all dead anyway. The evacuation sites won't stay hidden for long. Just come back if you can, he replied. We're going to need leaders for whatever comes next. As the strike team boarded and systems came online, Maya took one last look at the farm that had become humanity's first real stronghold against the invasion. Whatever happened next, this place had already secured its place in history, the site where humans proved they would not go quietly into extinction. Inside the Guardian's expanded cockpit, Maya took her position at the primary controls. Her father managed weapon systems while Dr. Kamathi surrounded herself with holographic displays, monitoring the experimental transport system. Final checks complete, Maya announced. Strike team secure. Guardian systems operational. Transport system online, Dr. Kamathi reported. Power levels at maximum. Targeting systems have locked onto the Dominance based on its energy signature. Weapons hot, Colonel Reeves confirmed. We'll have about 30 seconds of surprise once we arrive before their internal security responds. Maya opened the comm channel to the team compartment behind them. This is it, people. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we remind the Crixians why they should have left Earth alone. She engaged the Guardian's conventional propulsion, lifting the mech into the night sky. Around them, diversionary attacks launched. Salvaged missiles, drones carrying electromagnetic pulse weapons, everything the Resistance could spare to create chaos in the approaching Crixian formation. Bring us to transport altitude, Dr. Kimethi instructed. 3,000 meters should be sufficient. As the Guardian rose, sensors detected the Crixian fleet entering the upper atmosphere, a swarm of deadly vessels with the massive dominance at its center. Transport system charging, Dr. Kimethi announced, her voice tight with concentration. Establishing quantum anchor point, now. The Guardian shuddered as energy surged through systems never designed to work together. Warning indicators flashed across Maya's display. Structural integrity at 80% and dropping, her father reported. We need to go now, or we won't go at all. 10 seconds to transport, Dr. Kimethi called. Brace for extreme disorientation. Maya gripped the controls, focusing on the image of the dominance in her tactical display. For Earth. For Earth, the team echoed. The world disappeared in a flash of impossible light. Maya felt her body compress, stretch, fold in ways human physiology shouldn't allow. For an eternal instant, they existed everywhere and nowhere. Then reality snapped back with brutal force. Alarms blared as the Guardian materialized directly inside the Dominance's main hangar bay, crushing several Crixian shuttles beneath its weight. Emergency force fields contained the explosive decompression, but klaxons wailed throughout the ship. We're in, Maya shouted, fighting nausea from the transport. Status! Guardian operational, her father reported. Transport system burnt out completely. This is a one-way trip. Then we make it count, Maya said, engaging the Guardian's weapons. The battle through the Dominance was brutal and disorienting. The Crixians had never faced an internal threat of this magnitude, had never imagined an enemy could penetrate directly to their command vessel. The Guardian smashed through corridors designed for beings half its size, weapons blazing, while the strike team deployed to secure key junctions. Ship schematics recovered from previous engagements guided them toward the command center. Crixian defenders rallied quickly, their initial shock giving way to disciplined response. Energy weapons scored hits against the Guardian's armor, warning lights flashing as systems took damage. We're not going to break through their defensive position, Colonel Reeves warned as they approached the final corridor to the command center. Their heavy weapons will cripple us before we reach the door. Maya analyzed the tactical display, seeing the buildup of Crixian troops ahead. We don't need to break through, we just need to get close enough. She opened the comm to the strike team members who had moved ahead. James, are you in position? Affirmative, came the reply, accompanied by the sound of weapons fire. We've breached the secondary access shaft. Maintenance tunnels lead directly to the command center, but we need a distraction. You'll get one, Maya promised. She guided the Guardian forward in a direct assault on the Crixian defensive position, drawing all attention and fire. As their shields failed and armor began to buckle, her father deployed their remaining heavy ordnance not at the defenders but at the ceiling and support structures. Strike team go, Maya ordered as the corridor collapsed, burying the Guardian and the Crixian defenders in debris, but leaving the path clear through the maintenance tunnels. Inside the cockpit, emergency lighting cast red shadows as primary systems failed. Maya coughed as smoke filled the air from damaged components. Guardian is down, she reported. Life support compromised. Reactor containment holding, but not for long. Maya, her father said, voice steady despite the blood running from a gash on his forehead. The self-destruct sequence. If the strike team fails, I know, she nodded. This ship doesn't leave Earth orbit intact no matter what. They waited. Intense silence, monitoring what sensors still functioned. Minutes stretched like hours as the Guardian systems continued to fail around them. Then the comm crackled to life. Command center secured, James reported, breathing heavily. Fleet, Commander Zorax is in custody. You should see the look on his face. These guys really aren't used to losing. Relief flooded through Maya, tempered quickly by their situation. The Guardian's not getting out of here, James. Reactors going critical. You need to get to the escape pods and signal the resistance for pickup. What about you? Maya looked at her father and Dr. Kimethi, all of them understanding their predicament. We'll try to stabilize the reactor. If we can't, She left the implication hanging. "I'm sending a team to dig you out," James insisted. "Negative. Complete the mission. That's an order." Maya switched off the comm before he could argue further. Her father was already working at what remained of the engineering controls. "If we reroute power from life support and weapons, we might buy enough time." They worked frantically, fighting against systems designed to be operated by a full engineering team. Just as the reactor warnings reached critical levels, a new alarm sounded. The hangar bay doors were opening. "Someone's launching," Dr. Kamathi reported, checking the remaining sensors. Through the Guardian's damaged viewport, they watched Crixian escape pods ejecting from the Dominance, not in the disciplined manner of a military evacuation, but in chaotic panic. "They're abandoning ship," Maya realized. "The strike team must have broadcast our reactor situation." "Smart. Move," her father nodded. "Crixian command structure breaks down without leadership. Each ship commander will be looking to save their own vessel now." As if confirming his assessment, the sensors detected the Crixian fleet dispersing, breaking formation. Some ships already beginning to pull away from Earth orbit. A massive impact shook the Guardian, and metal groaned as debris shifted around them. Light flooded in as a section of collapsed ceiling was lifted away. James appeared in the gap, accompanied by 2 resistance fighters, and surprisingly, a Crixian in officer's armor. "I told you to evacuate," Maya said, trying to sound stern despite her relief. "And I decided that was a terrible order," James replied, helping them from the cockpit. "Besides, our new friend here knows a shortcut to the evacuation shuttles." The Crixian officer, smaller than Maya had expected up close, spoke through a translation device. "I am Sub-Commander Vex. I opposed this invasion from the beginning. Many of us did. Zorax's obsession with conquering Earth went against strategic assessments. So you're helping us out of the goodness of your heart?" Maya's father asked skeptically. "I am helping you because it serves my people's interests," Vex replied. "This war was Zorax's crusade, not ours. Your weapons capabilities have proven humans are not the primitives we believed. The High Command will negotiate once they understand the true situation." As they navigated through the disintegrating ship, Maya kept looking back at the Guardian, half buried in debris. The machine that had given humanity its first real victory would not be coming home. "The reactor's going to blow in minutes," Dr. Kamathi warned, checking her portable scanner. "We need to clear the blast radius." They reached the auxiliary shuttle bay where the strike team had secured a Crixian transport vessel. Inside, Fleet Commander Zorax sat restrained, his mandibles twitching with barely controlled rage. The rest of the strike team worked the unfamiliar controls, preparing for launch. "You think this changes anything?" Zorax snarled as they boarded. "Our empire spans galaxies. One defeat means nothing." Maya stepped close to the captured commander. "This isn't just a defeat. It's a message. Earth isn't your conquest or your colony or your reality show. We're not going to be harvested or subjugated or mocked." She leaned closer. "And that primitive weapon that took down your ships? That was built by my grandfather with technology your people discarded as useless decades ago. Imagine what we can do with what we've learned since then." The shuttle launched as the first explosions began to tear through the Dominance. Through the viewport, Maya watched the Guardian's reactor finally breach, energy cascading through the massive ship. The Crixian flagship broke apart in a spectacular display visible across hundreds of miles of Earth's surface. "Broadcast on all frequencies," Maya ordered as they descended through the atmosphere. "Every resistance cell, every survivor with a radio. They need to see this." The shuttle's communications officer, one of their own, complied, sending the images of the destroyed Dominance to every receiver they could reach. The message was simple. Humanity had struck back. They landed near one of the evacuation sites, where hundreds of resistance fighters and civilians had gathered to witness the results of the mission. As Maya and the strike team emerged with their prisoner, a cheer went up that seemed to shake the ground itself. Colonel Reeves approached a makeshift command post where communications officers were monitoring Crixian transmissions. "The fleet is in disarray," one reported. "Some ships are retreating to lunar orbit, Others have broken formation entirely. We're intercepting transmissions from what appears to be the Crixian High Command, ordering all forces to cease offensive operations pending further instructions. Not a victory, Maya's father said quietly, but a reprieve. Maya nodded, watching, as Subcommander Vex conferred with human intelligence officers, already providing insights into Crixian tactics and technology. A chance to build something better than what we had before. In the days that followed, the pattern repeated across the planet. Crixian forces pulled back, consolidating positions but no longer advancing. Resistance cells emerged from hiding, establishing contact with one another, sharing resources and information. The Guardian became a symbol, its image painted on walls and flags wherever humans gathered. 2 weeks after the destruction of the Dominants, Maya stood on a hilltop overlooking what had once been her grandfather's farm. The bunker remained, now the center of a growing settlement, but the farmhouse and barn were gone, casualties of the battles that had raged there. Her father joined her, carrying a small metal box. Engineering team recovered this from the Guardian's data core before the mission. Thought you should have it. Inside was a holographic projector, similar to the one that had contained her grandfather's message. When activated, it displayed not just her grandfather, but a team of scientists and engineers, the original Guardian project. This is the culmination of Project Guardian. Her grandfather's recording began. Not just a weapon, but a proof of concept. If you're viewing this, it means our greatest fears came true, and that you found a way to fight back. The Guardian was never meant to win a war alone. It was meant to show what's possible when human ingenuity meets the challenge of advanced technology. The hologram shifted to display schematics, dozens of designs based on the same principles as the Guardian but refined, improved. These are the legacy of Project Guardian, the recording continued. The blueprints for humanity's future, whether that future includes peaceful contact with alien civilizations or the need to defend ourselves. The choice of how to use them is yours. As the message ended, Maya closed the box carefully. He knew all along. Joseph always thought further, ahead than anyone, her father agreed. Even now he's giving us a path forward. From the settlement below, a transport vehicle approached carrying James and Dr. Kimathi. Behind them came Sub-Commander Vex and several human officers. The Crixian High Command has made contact, James reported as they reached the hilltop. They're requesting formal negotiations. They think you destroyed their flagship with a prototype, Vex added. They believe humans have an arsenal of weapons like the Guardian, hidden around your planet. Maya exchanged a glance with her father, both understanding the opportunity this misunderstanding presented. Let them keep thinking that, she said. For now. Dr. Kimathi gestured to the metal box. What will you do with the schematics? Maya looked out over the horizon, where the sun was setting on a world irrevocably changed. Not free, not yet at peace, but with something it hadn't had, since the invasion began, a future. We'll build, she said simply. Not just weapons, everything. Better defenses, better ships, better technologies. She turned to face them, determination hardening her expression. The Crixians thought they found a primitive world ripe for conquest. Instead, they woke something that had been sleeping inside humanity all along, our capacity to adapt, to innovate, to take what seems impossible and make it real. As darkness fell, lights came on across the settlement below, spreading outward like stars. In bunkers and basements and hidden camps across the world, humans were emerging, connecting, rebuilding. The Guardian was gone, but its legacy remained in the technology it had demonstrated, in the victory it had won, and in the hope it had restored. They laughed at us, Maya said quietly. They won't make that mistake again. In orbit, the remaining Crixian vessels maintained their distance, no longer conquerors, but cautious observers. On their command decks, images of the Guardian were studied with newfound respect, tactical assessments rewritten to account for human capabilities previously deemed impossible. And in a secure facility beneath what had once been a family farm in Wisconsin, engineers already worked on the first Of the new designs, not a replica of the Guardian, but something evolved from its principles. Something uniquely human in its approach to alien technology. The war wasn't over. The Earth wasn't saved. But humanity had found its Guardian, not in a single machine or weapon, but in the indomitable spirit that had created it. The spirit that took the impossible and made it real. The spirit that would, given time, take back their world and reach for the stars beyond. End.